Welcome to Rhythm of Previews, where we check out the preview chapters of Rhythm of War, the fourth Stormlight Archive novel. I am Danielle with the 17th Shard.
Hi, I'm Arvin.
Hello.
Hi.
So, naturally, Rhythm of War spoilers ahead. Let's just get into it. What annotations did we get for chapter 16?
So, Brendan talked at length, like it was the longest annotation so far, I think, about how he decides which viewpoint characters to put into the book and generally when to put them into the book. And that's basically what prompted him to do that, was that he has been getting a lot of questions about why Adolin or Delena don't get viewpoint or haven't had viewpoints yet. And he simply wanted to address those questions. And what Brandon has noticed is, and where I agree with him, is that for a lot of these very large fantasy epics, they get bogged down in dealing with all the character sprawl because the author wants to start investigating like all the side characters and all their plot lines. And then rather than following through with like the existing plot lines and finishing them, or at least moving them along, they start new ones. And so some plot lines don't even get explored in some books. And so Brandon thought he had to limit himself, basically, even for main characters. And he doesn't want full sequence, doesn't think it's good to have full sequence for all of the main characters in every part. So instead, he splits it up between the parts. So, for instance, rather than writing them everywhere, he wants to write them where they are most useful. Like in Rhythm of War now, we didn't have a Delena chapter yet, but we still see Delena through Navani's eyes or Kaladin's eyes in his chapters. And so he thinks it's like we get enough of him. Maybe not enough, but we get to see him. And we'll have to wait until later in the book to see his perspective on things directly. But then it's probably also more valuable to have it then. So, yeah, I think Brandon thinks this way of approaching the books is a lot better in the long run. And like the alternative for him would be to make the books even longer or write even more books. And so some of them might not even move the plot forward. And so he thinks it's much better to just, move around the plot lines and, only have viewpoint characters that actually make sense, I guess. And I agree with him there.
Yeah. I mean, my first instinct is like more books, writing longer books. I'm okay with that. But honestly, it makes sense because we're getting good perspective. I really am enjoying Navani's perspective in these chapters because, like I said in the last episode, it feels like Navani's asking all the questions on our behalf, you know?
Yep.
So I really like that. I feel like Dalinar would have very interesting input in his own like point of view, but Navani's input and inquisitiveness helps kind of drive the plot forward, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. And like I feel like for people who have read The Wheel of Time, I think it's very extreme there. Like it's stretched out a lot in some places, and like some books are basically you can skip entire viewpoints because they're not really that necessary to read. And I like that Brennan is really saying, okay, let's focus on this stuff. And okay, Brennan also has the excuse, I guess, that he can write novellas when he wants to deal with a side character or something. So that's another thing. Like he does still write more books and explore stuff, but they're not fundamental to the book or anything or to the series. He just does it for fun because he's Brennan.
Yeah, I'm not a writer, so I'm not going to pretend to be like, he should do this and he should do that.
Oh, yeah.
I like Brandon's writing. I'm in love with his books. And so I feel like they're in the best hands, and I'm not going to criticize him for the choices that he makes for his own novels. So that's just my opinion.
Yeah. And one more thing maybe from the comments on the annotations, because some people asked Brandon about like the King's Drop and the Thrill, what happened to it and stuff like that. And Brandon acknowledged that, yes, a lot of people, even the betas and Peter, were asking about him about it, I think. And so he tried to put in more hints at what is going on there, but he wanted to assure us that it's apparently more safe or safer than it might sound right now. So yeah, maybe we'll see some more of it at some point.
I hope so. I hope we get that explanation, at least a little bit.
I have my doubts, but maybe we'll see it.
I mean, that was a pretty big bomb that was dropped. Like, it's at the bottom of the ocean. That's it.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Well, let's get into chapter 17. Our epigraph for chapter 17 is about the fused weapons. So these weapons, Navani describes, are a lightweight metal, kind of a construct that resists the blow from a shard blade. It also resists being soulcast, and it interferes with radiant abilities. And the fused, she posits, don't seem to be able to create too many of them because only a few of them wield these weapons.
And at least by like the description of all of it and the general properties, I think it's very likely that that metal is aluminium that they are talking about, that she's talking about. So one place where we saw the metal was Lashry Spear, for instance, but I like the way it worked. I personally thought that it's just aluminium. Like it would have some other component, like because it also has the gemstone stuff like it. So I feel like it at least is some interplay there between, or it's more Fabric-like in that instance. But yeah, it makes a lot of sense for them to have aluminium weapons at all. Or maybe it's also another god metal could also be an option. But from the description of it, I think it's very likely that it's aluminium.
Yeah, I know that she doesn't go out and say that it is, but I was assuming maybe she just didn't want to make that assumption. Maybe she didn't have a chance to really research it. Maybe they haven't even gotten one of these weapons to do any tests on or anything, and all of their research on them is literally just watching them fight with the windrunners. So maybe I'm just assuming maybe she just didn't have all of the information at the time of this speech.
Could be, yeah. That I hope, I guess, or I'd like to see them experimenting more with aluminium in this book, because like we know they use it in the fourth bridge to sort of I guess steer it or like restrict its movement, so or the movement of the fabrials, how they transfer. So yeah, I feel like they should have at least have some inkling of like how aluminium works. And we even in Oathbringer, Hoyt gave them like sheets of aluminium to shield them from the soul casting from these what were they called now? The secret spren, right? We learned that. So I feel like they definitely will do some investigation there and find stuff out about aluminium. If it even is aluminium, it might be a god metal, I guess.
I think we're trying. I guess she's trying to lead us to believe that it's aluminum, but
yeah,
who knows? And then I also was wondering with the last sentence in that, or last part of that epigraph, I'm wondering if maybe the reason they only equip themselves with the weapons is just because they don't want non-fused to be carrying them. Because my little pet theory is that this weapon can kill them. And so maybe if they don't give these special fused weapons to non-fused, they feel like they can control who has this upper hand, possibly.
Yeah, I like that. Maybe it even, to some extent, is like they are worried that the lesser singers would rise up against them in some form. Like if there are some who are not that content, I guess they might, or they don't want them to have weapons that can potentially kill them. Because like I don't think it would be just a supply issue, because we know that, or like by WoP, I think we know that you can soul cast stuff into aluminium. So I don't think that's a problem, or unless maybe you have to put in a lot of investiture and material maybe to convert stuff to aluminium. That could also be the case, but I feel like that wouldn't necessarily be the issue. So I think that's a good theory, that it maybe is just like they simply don't want more weapons that can kill them.
I don't want to just assume that Navani has all the answers, because we have seen in all of her points of view that she's questioning things. So she's writing up this report to the coalition and everything about her observations, but we can't necessarily trust that as being like 100% fact. So
Yeah.
just trying to be objective when I read those. All right. So chapter 17 is called A Proposal. Not that kind of proposal. Navani observes as Shallan and Dalinar are creating the map, and Mink reacts in a very frightened way when it appears, which is really great that we got to see that. And then Yasna and Wit also show up together, and they're strategizing, and they show Mink all of the locations of their armies. Mink is suggesting that they consolidate their forces and focus on an easier fight in Emul to regain more of their troops before they start the fight for Alethkar. And this is due to the fact that Dalinar reveals that he doesn't quite trust Taravangian. He is pretty sure that Taravangian is fighting for the enemy Odium. So Mink asks Dalinar, why is he sharing all of this sensitive information with him? And Dalinar's just truthful. He says he just needs Mink to be on his side. He needs his expertise. Mink responds that he read Dalinar's book, and while he doesn't trust the Blackthorn, he can probably trust the man who wrote that book, which I really liked that. Mink is then escorted out by Shallan and Adolin, and they ask Wit to bring in Ash and Taln. They interview Ash and Talon a little bit more because apparently Yasna has been interviewing them, and they decide from some things that Ash says that they also have to prepare for a bit of a scuffle with the Shin.
And just as what I really liked about this chapter is seeing Dalinar and Shallan interact with the map there.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was really cool, and I just hope that might be a hint at what sort of future technology might look like with like illumination-based displays or something like that. That would be really cool.
Yeah, that was a very, very cool scene. And I really liked when Navani's just watching it and she's got her notebook out and she's writing all of her feelings about how it feels to watch this map like kind of arise and everything. It was really neat.
It did make me wonder a little how much control maybe others might have over the map as well. Like, does it require, or can only Dalinar and Shallan sort of manipulate it and like zoom in and out and they put up these glyphs that indicate how many troops there are. So I wonder whether it's like how much effort it also requires on their part, I guess.
I feel like it was Shallan actually manipulating it with her light waving. That was just my impression.
Yeah. So because in one scene, like Dalinar, it at least sounded like Dalinar was zooming in on like what was it, Azir at that point. So maybe it's also just a matter of because Dalinar is sort of providing the connection and the actual map data, I guess you could say. So he can control some of it, and the illusion just sort of conforms to what he wants it to see. Could also be the case.
Yeah, I thought that was a really neat feature of the map too. Like it doesn't lose resolution as it zooms in, and they can actually see individual troops, and that they were like the size of a sphere and stuff. So I thought that was really, really cool, and I could totally picture it being like a hologram in the whole room, and they're kind of like swimming in it, kind of.
Yeah,
I thought that was really, really cool.
It's like a really sci-fi look almost.
Yes, I am getting sci-fi vibes here.
And what I also found cool or interesting is that how like they update it with every high storm, and so it's not limitless the technology or the magic, I guess. They actually have to, because the knowledge of what Rosha looks like actually comes from the Stormfather. Is what I got from it, and so it's not like fully overpowered. It's like it's pretty powerful to just create a map like that at moment's notice, but it's not. They can't just do whatever with it. Like they couldn't prepare a battle for it, I guess.
It's not real time map. It's a static map that they have one image of, and then they have to update it every time like troops move and stuff, I'm assuming.
Yeah. Although now I do wonder whether they maybe could somehow get the Stormfather to sort of, if there was a battle, if they could get him to sort of preside over the battle, and then some light viewer can just produce a map that's in real time. Then that would be
really
actually,
cool.
Yeah. I mean,
That would
doesn't
really
require...
change like how they approach these battles.
Yeah.
And stuff.
Maybe it wouldn't even necessarily require like the Stormfather. It could just be enough, right? Because it works on connection. Which, a side note, it's also cool that they use capital C connection here, and as they don't really know that it's a deeper Cosmere sort of concept, but it's cool that there's connection.
Well, yeah, Navani is capitalizing it in her head, pretty much.
Yeah.
and then she also mentions when Dalinar walks through the map that the Stormlight kind of connects to him with a lowercase c. And so she's like, she's using connection very specifically in this.
Yeah. And I guess it might be in some way, like moving on in the chapter, it might be some stuff they learned about the bondsmith from Ash, maybe. Like maybe she told them they are all about connection. She's not very cooperative, but maybe at least that she told them. I don't know.
Definitely possible, but I feel like she really didn't have a lot of information for them, because they said that she was like, when Yasna would be interviewing her, she's like, I already told you everything. I don't know anything. I didn't pay attention. And Yasna was kind of like, I can read between the lines. And Shalash was kind of pouty in this chapter. I feel like she was very kind of like she was crossing her arms and rolling her eyes when Yasna was asking her about bondsmiths and about her dad and stuff. And she's kind of sounded like a little snooty. Like when Yasna was asking about like how they banished them to another realm of reality, and Ash just goes, it's a planet, not a realm. I just got this like feeling from her that she was just kind of one of those snooty teen kids, even though she's ancient.
I guess it might be some form of like how she probably was not that old when they got turned into her or became cognitive shadows. So it might be some of that manifesting as well, because like she was still pretty young and pretty like I guess I don't think she was a teenager, but at least on the younger side, so that could be an aspect.
Well, she's also working with her father, so that might have had some kind of a power dynamic there where you know, she kind of feels like she needs to rebel a little bit.
Yeah. And I guess it must be really hard for her in general, because like her madness sort of is that she doesn't like depictions of herself and when people worship her. So I guess it must be really hard for her to be among all these Warren people, or like not necessarily even the Warrens, but all the others as well who worship her. Like it's part of their religion. So yes, that's also an aspect of it, that she simply hates being there right now because all these people.
Yeah. It's probably just a combination of everything, like just her personality in general, plus all of that you said. I could definitely see that. I don't want to talk bad about her, because I actually really like her as a character. I find the Heralds to be extremely interesting, but I just found it really funny in this chapter how she was kind of like, I don't know, just felt a little snooty.
Oh yeah, definitely. And by the way, because you mentioned how she says like that Brace and Ashen aren't really aren't other planes of existence or anything but planets. In combination with like last week's chapter where we saw the telescopes, I guess they're going to find out soon that there are hopefully that there are planets, and you can actually see them in the sky in a little more detail.
The reason why they're making these telescopes is because of the information from Ash about them being planets. Maybe she gave them enough of a push to develop the telescopes because now they're like, oh, there's planets? Like, this is a new thing.
And I mean, they do have access to Shadesmar now, or easier access to Shadesmar now, so they might already have sent some expeditions also in these directions. So maybe they also want to sort of cross-reference what it looks like from Rosha in the physical realm with what it looks like in the cognitive realm. Could also see that happening.
Maybe they're like mapping it out or something. That'd be really interesting. Wonder if Shallan and Dalinar could make a map of Shadesmar.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I guess they.
Or what if they're going to use the telescopes and they can look at the surface of Braze and Ashen. Sorry, my dog is barking, just in case you hear her. They could look at the surface and then Shallan can light weave a map. I don't know if Dalinar would be able to use connection to create such a detailed map of those, but that would be kind of interesting.
I guess maybe for Braze it might work if like Talon spent a lot of time on Braze. So it might be possible for him to connect to Talon in some form and use that maybe to create a map. That'd be kind of cool. But Shadesmar, I don't know. Like we see the High Storm passing in like Oathbringer in Shadesmar, and I feel like, or almost feel like at that, or when that happens, or when the High Storm is passing, the Stormfather is almost or much more in the physical than the cognitive realm. So maybe he isn't capable of doing that, but I wouldn't put it like I wouldn't say it's impossible that he can do that. Would definitely help them as well with like if they can also see like troop movements and stuff in Shadesmar, because I'm pretty sure Odium will also move troops around in the cognitive.
And it was very sad to see poor Talon there.
Oh yeah.
He's not really able to converse with anyone. But I thought it was really sweet when Wit came back with Ash and Talon, and he was being very respectful with them and stuff. I thought that was really nice. And that even Ash kind of takes care of Talon. Like, they all respect him so much. So I thought that was really nice. I'm hoping that something can happen to help him talk.
Yeah. So actually there was a relatively common theory, I think, at the like when we first learned that they were learning stuff from the heralds, that it might like some people thought that it also was Talon that we learned stuff from. And they theorized because in Oathbringer at the very end in the Battle of Thalen Field, they when Dalinar opens the perpendicularity, Talon actually is lucid for a few minutes or for as long as the perpendicularity is open. So people were theorizing that maybe whenever he does that, Talon might get some lucidity and they might get info out of him. But I guess either they haven't tried that yet because they wouldn't really know, because they weren't all there to see it. I think it actually was from Ash's viewpoint that we saw that, so who knows. But if they tried it, maybe it didn't work out after all. But I just found like this chapter confirms to me that they either haven't tried it or I guess they just haven't tried yet, because otherwise I guess nobody would have said it.
Plus, I think it would be a lot of work to have Dalinar open a perpendicularity just so that Jasnah could talk to Talon. Although I wouldn't put it past Jasnah to kind of bully him into trying it. So
definitely.
Yeah, like you said, maybe they just haven't even thought of trying that. Or they didn't connect the two or something.
Yeah. And as far as Wit treating them like that is concerned, we know that at least Ash knows him by the name Midius. Midius or whatever, how you pronounce it. But so either I guess they know him to some some personal level, I guess. And he's more like he knows them, and so he treats them like he knows what they went through because he saw them. I guess he also was able to witness them getting or losing their sanity because he knew what they were like when they weren't heralds yet. And I feel like that also is a factor in him treating them like he does.
Yeah, for sure. And it's kind of interesting that from Navani's viewpoint, they're not really sure why he treats them like that, but they appreciate it. I thought that was neat because we know, but they don't. So
yeah.
That's one thing I like about these chapters with kind of new viewpoints, is because it gives us a fresh look at what is going on in the actual characters' minds, rather than, us just trying to put the puzzle together. We're seeing them try to put the puzzle together.
Definitely. And I like how she talks about Widow Hoyt in general here, because like she says, he might put up a facade or like a personality, I guess, for matching for every monarch, because with Elokar he never was that mysterious acting, and now with Jasna he is. And I really like that. Like, that's a very hard thing to do.
Yeah. Well, with Elokar, he was more like a jester. Like, he was teasing people to probably just to put Elokar at ease, I guess. And then with Jasna, he's acting more like an advisor almost, or like he's giving her advice, and they're in these secret conversations and stuff. And people are picking up on that.
And I guess there are rumors that Jasna and Hoyt are in some form of closer relationship.
Yeah.
Either a couple or just, yeah.
I don't want to perpetuate the use of this one, but I kind of hate / love the term Yasnoid.
Yes. That
it's fun, horrible. Yeah. It sounds awful. I hate it, but at the same time, it's really easy to say.
It is.
But honestly, my impression of both of these characters, knowing how different they are and they're their own people, I don't feel like they're in a relationship, like a romantic relationship. I could definitely see them being like a casual fling. They're probably like together, but they both have their own motivations, and they're both very strong-willed people. I feel like they can use each other to further their own ends, almost like a symbiotic relationship. But Yasta, in my opinion, doesn't seem like the type of person to get into a serious relationship to the point where she's excluding anything else, and especially not Wit, like Hoyd. He doesn't seem like he would, he has all these grandiose goals that we actually don't really know. I don't feel like he would just, have a girlfriend and then know that he might have to abandon her at some point.
Actually, I think I can't remember where, but we have Hoyt talking about how he doesn't do relationships anymore, really, because he knows how they'll end with him being immortal. And that it doesn't strike me, or how it doesn't strike me as a character who would just enter a relationship like that with a normal mortal, I guess. Or I guess Jasna isn't quite such
a normal, but yeah. But I also don't see Wit being immortal and not having any kind of relationships with people, especially Jasna. She's amazing.
Oh yeah, I think Hoyt would just keep them at a certain distance, and he'd still keep mysteries even from Jasna. He wouldn't just tell Jasna, yeah, okay, there's that planet called Yolen, and there's this and this going on there. I don't feel like he'd do that even for her. But I guess it could also be a factor that he now has bonded as Bren, and so he is tangled up more in Rosha than anywhere else. So he just thinks, okay, yeah, I can talk to Jasna and give her some advice and let her know some stuff.
And I don't want to assume that he's a bad guy or anything, even though we can't really make any assumptions about him at the time. But I don't feel like he is just using her maliciously or anything. Like I don't feel like he's just getting in a relationship with her just to be able to be close, because he's already in a position as the king's wit or the queen's wit. So I don't know. I think rumors are just rumors, especially since Jasna is now in the public eye even more. And I wouldn't put too much into it, in my opinion.
I feel like Yasna would even perpetuate such rumors, maybe, because, like, okay, if they want to think that, then they can think that, as long as she can further her own goals and use it as a pretense, I guess, to spend time with Hoyt and talk
I'm
to him
sorry.
about
My dog.
Yeah, but it also was fun, like, to just see that from Navani's perspective, because it also characterizes Yasna again for us, where she talks about how, yeah, okay, it's like she want to, or like she normally feel okay talking about these things, like if it was a more intimate relationship and stuff like that. But then again, it's Yasna who'd she be talking to, so it makes sense that she doesn't really know what's going on there. I really like that perspective as well.
I agree. I like Navani.
Oh yeah.
She's a good mom.
Also, it's also fun to see her perspective on Wit or Hoyt here, because like how she talks about how he just sits down with kings and queens and doesn't really care much for the, like, feels very comfortable there. And I guess, yes, Navani, he would feel quite comfortable there. He would have or could have become a god if he wanted to. So yeah.
He probably is kind of refreshing to them. He's not like bowing and scraping and
Oh yeah.
and they know that he's got information and stuff. So they know that he's something special. So I don't think they're gonna, yell at him for not being respectful or something. I feel like they're a little past that. And then Yasna has I'm so happy that we finally got to see her. She has some interesting things going on as queen, wanting to free all the slaves and everything. This is so exciting.
Yeah. To be honest, I always was a little surprised that the Alethi even had, I guess, normal slaves, because they had the parshmen. It always feel a little weird to me that they would need normal slaves, I guess, because all the other societies do without them. Yeah, it just kind of was weird, but it is very exciting that she wants to get rid of it, and I guess wants to move or make the society more liberal, and doing away with slavery is a very good move, at least from our perspective.
I feel like slavery, with their society being so class oriented, like the Nons and the Dons and Dark Eyes, Light Eyes, and all of that, I feel like it almost follows that they would start like some kind of slavery and have it in their society. And I'm not surprised that Yasna wants to abolish it completely. I'm just surprised at her timing with this whole apocalypse and everything going on. And she wants to bring this up to all the high princes and tell them basically, like, let all the people go. Like, it just seems like bad timing. Although I don't want to advocate for like slavery, obviously. Horrible. I'm just surprised that Dalinar wasn't the one who brought it up and that Yasna was, because I feel like Dalinar would be more anti-slavery at this time than Yasna would be.
Yes, and I feel like Dalinar in principle agree, or like he even says he agrees with Yasna that it would be good, but I also feel like Dalinar is much more of a traditionalist in a way, and like while he is bringing about a lot of change, and like as Yasna points out, he himself wrote a book only, like he wrote a book as a man, and that's like wouldn't have been believable even a year ago for them. So I wonder, I don't necessarily wonder, but I feel like it would be in character for Dalinar to keep with like their tradition and not necessarily want to change too much about it, at least not like such a drastic measure as Yasna wants to do it.
Yeah,
and meanwhile,
I guess that makes sense. Yeah.
And meanwhile, Yasna, she also talks about how she wants the Ardens to no longer be slaves, and I feel like she really she has ulterior motives with it. Like, of course, she would free the slaves, but I also feel like she sees the use in freeing the Ardens from ownership and letting them do their own thing, I guess.
Yeah, and with her saying, "Oh, I don't want to dismantle the church." I think she kind of does. So maybe she's bringing this up as like her ulterior motive is reducing the church's power over everything.
Yeah, I think she would want to reduce its power, but I don't necessarily think she would want to dismantle it completely, because the way Yasna generally acts is that, like, okay, she's fine with people being religious, and it just isn't for her in a way. Like, she doesn't really, like in Way of Kings and the other books, she doesn't really want to convert people to her atheism. Instead, she just lets them be, and she's fine with her own philosophy. So I wouldn't say she wants to dismantle the church as such.
No, but she definitely has a reason for wanting to free the slaves beyond just her morality, which her morality is do what's best for the most amount of people, right? So that's what she says in this chapter. So I feel like by freeing the Ardents, she's able to help them kind of make different decisions rather than just following what like their owners or whatever they're called would tell them to do.
Yeah, like especially with like the Ardents, I feel like she would be able to leverage them as resources, because right now they might be bound up in the duties they have for a certain light eyes or something like that. Like if there's one lord who has, I don't know, 10 Ardents who do just his bookkeeping or something like that, they are suddenly free to commit to the war effort and help them figure out maybe how to get back Alyx or something like that. And yeah, I feel like she must think that it's a good move in general, I guess, to move away from slavery, but I don't feel like she would do it if it didn't serve a higher purpose for herself or like for her country.
Yeah, it's kind of tough because we know that all of these different people, Dalinar, Yasna, even Navani, everybody has their own goals. And now we've seen from their point of view all of their different goals, but they are moral people. Dalinar wasn't, and then basically like made a full 180 and went the other way, from Blackthorn to Dalinar, the bondsmith. So it's kind of tough to really say exactly what their motivations are for anything.
Yeah.
I mean, I want to say they're freeing the slaves because it's right. And that is a part of it. They're freeing the slaves, or Yasna wants to free the slaves because it's the right thing to do. But there's also other reasons. And then even Dalinar was like, I don't know about this. And she's like, you can feel free to oppose me. As a matter of fact, that would be better, because then it would make a scene that like you and I are not, always furthering our ends. Like I'm not your puppet. So I don't know. It's very well written.
It is, yeah, and just it's cool to finally see Yasna as queen and act like a queen here. Like you can really feel that see that she is fit for the position of queen and will change her country, or like I guess her people at least, because she doesn't really have a country right now. But yeah,
her people in exile. They said it's really sad. And then with this whole chapter, it was about planning out their next move. And Dalinar really wanted to free Alethkar, but he can't do that while they have Taravangian and while they have less forces, because they have another fight going on in, I can't pronounce it, Emul. Yeah, that place.
Or Emul? I don't know.
And so when they brought Mink in, the whole reason for Mink to be there, really, obviously it was for his expertise and everything, but Dalinar wanted him to say what he was thinking, basically. He kind of wanted to, like, he was already planning to go and do that, but he really wanted to save Alethkar, and then Mink comes in, he's like, no, you should do this other thing.
Yeah.
And so that kind of like confirms.
And I really love, like, in general, I really like Mink as a character. It's always good to see him back, and because he acts really nonchalantly around all these other people, and like, oh yeah, you're the Blackthorn, but I guess after reading his book, he isn't the Blackthorn anymore, even to the Mink. But just in how he just case, okay, no, that won't work. You better not get back Alaska. Like, he's finally somebody who's really willing to just say no to Delena, because so far he basically always got his way. And yeah, I bet it's also part of the, I guess, shared history in a way, because of all the war that Delena waged against herders. But yeah.
He had two of my favorite lines in this chapter too. Like the first one, I loved when he was asking Dalinar why they have so many troops in the south something or another, and Dalinar gives him this reason, and Mink is like, yeah, I'm sure that works on the coalition, but what's the real reason? And I really liked that part because he's very honest, and that's what Dalinar really respects. And then the other line that I really loved was when he finally agrees to, kind of join them and work with them. He says, I do not trust the Blackthorn, but perhaps I can trust the man who would write the words you did, which I loved that because it's a viewpoint from a new character giving us what they feel about Dalinar, like a real true account of how they feel about Dalinar's change. So yeah, Mink had a really great part in this chapter.
Yeah, definitely. And I personally agree with his assessment and like what he suggested, because I feel like, okay, right, Alaska is the homeland, and I can totally understand why they'd want to get it back. But like Jasna also sees reason with what he says. It doesn't really make sense right now to take it back with Terentian being there. And also I feel like it just strategically in general, even if Terentian wasn't there, it isn't the most practical or helpful target, because basically it's the easternmost country, so it's pretty isolated in a way. In that way, like they still have Yakavet as a sort of barrier in between Alaska and the rest of the world. And so in my opinion, at least, it would make more sense to attack somewhere more near Asia, because otherwise, like especially north of Asia, or the empire is that's basically all belonging to or part of Odium's forces right now. That feels like a perfect staging ground for them. So yeah.
I had to pull up the map when I was reading this chapter because I don't have it memorized. But when you look at the sizes, even just like the geographical size of Alethkar versus Emu, I don't know how to pronounce it. That place, that E place. Like it just seems to make sense that you would go after the smaller one, like almost a guaranteed victory, and use the new troops that you get from that, and then attack a larger force rather than going directly after. I mean, I'm not a strategist or anything, obviously, but it makes sense to me.
Yeah. Like it just doesn't seem particularly prudent right now, especially because it's such a long way, even from like the border of Yakavet to Kolina. So even just going straight for the capital wouldn't work out for them, I feel. So focusing on the smaller target and really consolidating the Azish Empire again, I feel it's like just the right choice at that moment. So but it was interesting to learn that in this chapter, in this scene where the Mink talks about how Isha is doing in that other place where he's Tukar?
As the god priest.
I think it's Tukar, the country, where he poses as Tessim, the god priest, but apparently isn't doing anything against the singers right now, which is...
But I guess cool they were hoping that they were going to sandwich the singers between them, but that's not going on.
No. But definitely cool at least to know that they all know now that it's Isha who is the God King. So guess that's secret.
Well, we got a lot of information about where all of the different enemies are. Like they talked about the Skybreakers, they talked about Ishar, they talked about the Shin. Who else did they talk about? Obviously the singers. Oh, the Dustbringers. They mentioned the Dustbringers too. So it was kind of an info dump for Mink, which is also an info dump for us, like catching us up and where everybody is. So that was a really good use of this chapter too.
Yeah, definitely.
And kind of brought up some other questions.
It did definitely for me, especially like that. As far as the Dustbringers are concerned, like Navani says, it like they're almost often at the brink of rebellion, almost. So I wonder, is that just Teravention's doing because he had the first Dustbringer and so he has them all under his control now, or is it just because they are Dustbringers and they want to rebel? I don't know. And their Spren are more inclined to do that. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. I think her name is Malata or Malata.
Yeah.
She might be kind of like how Shallan is over the Lightweavers. She might be over the Dustbringers and kind of teaching them since she was kind of the first. So maybe she's influencing them, just being like kind of their leader or something.
Yeah, I could definitely. And like she is under or like she's part of the diagram, so she might just be acting on Teravention's behalf there and like saying, okay, Dustbringers, maybe make some noise and
yeah. And then they're talking about the Shin as well, and how the Shin have all of these different secrets, and they've practiced with the Herald's blades, and they put a lot of emphasis on their religion with the Heralds and the prophecies. Even Beth in the previous chapter mentioned how they put a lot of faith in the prophecies and the death rattles and things. So they're kind of a force to be reckoned with now.
And like we know from history, I don't know if it's in the books actually or if it's just swaps, but we know that the Shin did some conquering in the past. Like there were several Shin invasions, where we do know that is by WoP that they used the honor blades there. So I kind of fear that the Shin might start a sort of misguided attack on, like an independent attack on both the Singers and the human coalition, maybe, because they also like block out all they can't send any spies or anything like that. So yeah,
they shoot arrows at any windrunners that try to go in there and stuff. So who knows what they're up to? Like they could be planning something, and that's kind of what Ash was alluding to, is that they're planning something.
Oh yeah, and this also just was really cool to see or learn that Ash apparently was in Shinowa for some time. That's just a cool detail there.
Yeah, and I don't know what she's doing.
I can't remember the exact line, but she was talking about like at first they I don't know, but and then they started worshipping me, and so she didn't like that at all, and it was kind of fun. Yeah,
and I really liked that we got some more description of the two from Navani's viewpoint, because she described Ash as looking almost Makabaki, but she has some Shin features, like her eyes are more Shin, so she doesn't have that epicanthic fold on her eye. And then she was talking about Taln and his description and stuff. So I love reading descriptions of characters. So whenever that comes up, I'm like writing notes down.
Yeah, I can't imagine why you might be interested in descriptions.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. It's also cool again to see the characters noticing these things about the heralds, and I guess they already know at this point that they are from Ashen, but like that's basically proof. Okay, they aren't from our planet, or at least haven't developed, or I guess evolved on our planet to have these epicanthic folds. How it worked out. So yeah,
or like maybe they were thinking like they came from before everybody kind of separated into different countries and different realms and things. I do wonder how come the Shin have what they describe as Shin eyes, but the other nations don't. Is that just because of like growing up on Roshar, or is it because of like interbreeding or something? Like,
yeah,
I don't
think
know.
it's sort of like for the Shin kept it because they were very isolated then and didn't really intermix. And the others, I think it was some interbreeding and some, because we also get the Iriali who came later to Roshar, but I don't we don't know at which time frame that is. But yeah, so I don't know.
And then her Daisian have like the stone nails, and Horneater has their own weird genetics going on.
Actually, do we ever have a description of what a Pashen or like a single eye looks like? Like, do they have epicanthic folds or don't they?
I don't know.
Actually, I'll go search maybe and
yes. A lot of people like to picture them more like alien and crab-like and stuff, but I know I was, I don't know, on Facebook or something, and the artist who draws the inside artwork for the books, Ben McSweeney, I think he mentioned something about how the Parshendi actually look more humanoid because there has to be some kind of an attraction between them to actually start interbreeding. So they actually have a lot of human looking features. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, whenever a chapter has some kind of description of a character, I always like kind of zoom in on that detail. Especially with people who are not necessarily from Roshar.
Yeah. I guess especially Alyx in particular, because
like,
even the Iriali and what are they called? The Babathanums, I think, look different as well as like the blue veins on their skin.
Sorry, my dog.
But yeah, I think that's about it from you for this chapter.
Yeah, I'm sure that there's a lot of more things that we're missing, especially with all the strategy and talking about the different countries and stuff. But if you have anything to comment on, please comment on this video or this. What do they upload them as?
Podcast?
Podcast. Yes, that's the word that I was looking for. Comment on this podcast. You can find all of these preview chapters at 9 a.m. Eastern Time on Tor.com, and we'll also let you know on 17thshard.com right at 9 when they come out. Also, audiobook chapters are released on Brandon Sanderson's YouTube channel, and you can discuss all of your thoughts with us on our Discord, on the forums, in the comments, wherever. We'd love to talk to you about them. And we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Oh, hey, look, good timing.
Just in time.
Boom.
We literally just stopped.
For 55 minutes? Come on, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there was a lot of stopping.
Yeah, but I also didn't expect this one to even get this long.